I recently relocated from the United States to the Balkans for a summer internship in the legal field. After settling into my temporary residence, I decided to join a nearby gym as a means of self-care and stress relief after long days at work. One evening, as I returned home from my first workout session, full of endorphins and feeling energized, something unsettling caught my attention. While waiting at a crosswalk, I noticed a man across the busy street staring at me. In my new environment, I had grown somewhat accustomed to occasional male gazes, but they were typically fleeting and brief. However, this man's unwavering gaze made me feel uneasy. I met his stare for a moment, hoping that acknowledging him would discourage any further interaction. Turning my head away, I continued walking down the street, trying to shake off the discomfort that lingered. To my surprise, a mere 2 minutes later, as I stood at another crosswalk preparing to cross the street, I noticed the same man standing beside me. I couldn't comprehend how he had managed to cross the street and catch up to me so swiftly. He continued staring, and although I was aware of his presence, I tried not to give away my awareness. As soon as it was safe to cross, I picked up my pace, and to my dismay, he matched my every step, maintaining a distance just a few steps behind me, all while continuing his unsettling stare. I found myself in a predicament familiar to those who have experienced being followed. It was a critical moment where one questions whether it is a genuine misunderstanding or a cause for concern. I began to ask myself if I was overreacting. Sadly, I had encountered similar situations in the past, and I learned that the best approach was to give the person the benefit of the doubt while maintaining caution. I needed them to prove that my fears were unfounded, all while avoiding any actions that might escalate the situation or reveal my destination. It was a delicate balance of trust and verification. With this in mind, I quickly altered my course, veering towards a different street, not my own. Despite being only a block away from my apartment when I first noticed him, I hoped that he would choose not to follow, thus dispelling my concerns. The new street was bustling with activity, offering multiple paths to follow from the crosswalk. To my disappointment, he continued to tail me down the unfamiliar street, a choice that seemed unusual as there were no stores or restaurants to justify his presence unless he happened to reside nearby. Drawing from past experiences, I decided to test him. I alternated my pace, slowing down and speeding up randomly to see if he would adjust accordingly or simply pass by me like any regular pedestrian would have easily done on that street. Within a block, it became apparent that he was indeed following me. With each step, his presence seemed to draw closer, and the sinking feeling in my gut intensified. The sun began to set, and I realized we were headed towards a part of town with which I was not familiar. A surge of determination coursed through me, and I made a split-second decision. Slowing down to the slowest pace I had maintained throughout this unnerving pursuit, I carefully scanned my surroundings. Then, with a burst of adrenaline, I darted across the street, reaching the other side before glancing back. Sure enough, he looked across the street and began moving in my direction, but this time, I gave him the fiercest glare I could muster. I reached for my bag, gesturing as though I were reaching for pepper spray. He noticed my gestures, our eyes locked, and he abruptly turned his head away, feigning interest in the street numbers as if he were lost or searching for a specific location. It was a poor attempt to disguise the fact that he had been matching my every move for the past 10 minutes. His gaze fixed solely on me, a woman half his age, walking back from the gym. He continued his pretense of looking around, stealing glances in my direction intermittently. Determined to break free from his pursuit, I seized the moment. With a surge of adrenaline, I began sprinting down the opposite street, occasionally casting quick glances over my shoulder to see if he persisted in following me. I took a circuitous route, navigating well-lit and bustling streets, employing unnecessary turns in an attempt to shake him off. After some time, once I felt reasonably confident that I had lost him, I finally recalculated my path and made my way back home. The following day, I confided in a local friend from work and asked them to accompany me to purchase pepper spray for added security. I opted for a compact-sized canister, easily fitting into my purse. Interestingly enough, the brand name of this particular pepper spray was Madam displayed prominently on the bottle in bold pink lettering. In the aftermath of that unnerving experience, I became more vigilant and cautious during my daily routines. I paid closer attention to my surroundings, familiarizing myself with the layout of the city and developing contingency plans for similar situations. While disheartening that such encounters were not uncommon, I refused to let fear dictate my life. Throughout my summer internship, I became more connected to the local community, forming meaningful friendships and support networks. I shared my experience with other women, raising awareness about personal safety and encouraging open discussions about the challenges we face in society. By speaking out, we empowered each other and worked towards creating a safer environment for everyone. As my time in the Balkans drew to a close, I reflected on the lessons I had learned. I understood that even in unfamiliar surroundings, I possessed the strength and resilience to navigate challenging situations. I vowed to continue speaking up, raising awareness, and advocating for a world where no one would have to feel unsafe or endure the fear of being followed. In the end, my encounter with the persistent stranger became a catalyst for personal growth and a reminder of the importance of self-defense and community support. And as I carried Madam in my purse, it served not only as a physical means of protection but also as a symbol of my determination to live fearlessly and empower others to do the same. I grew up in Vietnam, always fascinated by the supernatural and the world of spirits. It led me to explore different avenues, such as studying tarot, in my quest to connect with the other side. Little did I know that my journey would take an unexpected turn, involving not just myself but my family as well. It all started with my brother. He began sharing with me his vivid dreams, encounters with entities that matched descriptions I had read in tarot literature. It may sound unbelievable, but it's the truth. My brother's dreams became so frequent that they became a source of contention between us. However, as we started discussing it more openly, my brother's dreams gradually subsided. But then it was my mother's turn. My mother, someone who had seen ghosts on numerous occasions, started experiencing strange occurrences while sleeping in my room. She had taken refuge there temporarily as I offered to change rooms for her, not wanting her to disturb my father or my sick sister. During her stay, my mother heard two whispering voices late at night. Although she couldn't make out the words, the whispers were distinct, and she politely asked them to stop, explaining that she had done them no harm. Unfortunately, it seemed they didn't share the same sentiment. Thankfully, my father and brother remained untouched by these encounters. However, these experiences have resurfaced lately. One day, as my mother was singing on the ground floor, she attempted to connect her Bluetooth speaker to play more music. To her surprise, as soon as she paired it, she heard nearly 10 different voices laughing, both male and female. The laughter was loud and clear, even though my mother hadn't played anything yet. A chill ran down her spine, but she quickly apologized to them, assuring them that she had done nothing to deserve such treatment. Miraculously, they ceased their laughter. They needed to learn to respect my mother's boundaries. In my own room, furniture would occasionally shift inexplicably, and I would catch glimpses of shadowy figures passing by my bed. Sometimes, I would hear a faint knocking at the door, but thankfully it was limited to 1 or 2 knocks. It still frightened me, though. On a few occasions, I even dreamt about one of these entities, but they would simply wake me up for school or engage in friendly banter within the dreamscape. I couldn't quite determine if they were genuinely connected to my tarot pursuits or something else entirely. What I did notice, however, was their contrasting behavior towards my mother and sister, disrespectful to them, yet oddly friendly to me. These occurrences have become increasingly frequent, leaving my mother understandably fearful. But amidst the unsettling experiences, there was a glimmer of hope. They actually helped my mother fend off an evil spirit, as they had promised they would. And, true to their word, my mother showed no ill effects afterward. While this journey into the realm of spirits has brought both fear and confusion, it has also opened our eyes to a reality beyond what we can perceive. We continue to navigate this mystical path, hoping to find understanding and perhaps establish a sense of harmony with these otherworldly entities who have chosen to share our lives. Allow me to share an intriguing experience from my early days of employment. Back in 2021, I landed my first job as an order picker in a food processing company. Being someone who preferred solitude, I managed to secure the night shift through negotiations with my boss. While being an order picker might not be the most glamorous occupation, it suited me perfectly as I could work independently without having to engage with others. One particular evening, my father dropped me off in front of the company around 9 p.m. He couldn't wait any longer as he was exhausted from a long day. I found myself sitting on the ground next to the building, taking a moment to enjoy a cigarette and browse through my phone. Suddenly, a man emerged from the darkness. He appeared well-dressed, impeccably groomed, and carried a rucksack. He approached and sat down next to me. Initially, I assumed he might have forgotten something and returned to retrieve it, but the odd thing was that the building was still open, so he could have simply gone inside to get what he needed. As I reflected on the situation, fear began to creep in. I started to wonder what this man wanted and why he chose to sit so close to me. Given my naturally paranoid disposition, my mind conjured up various unsettling scenarios of potential harm. However, to my relief, he remained motionless, as though transformed into a statue. Minutes passed in tense silence, and the clock neared 9:50 p.m. It was time for me to enter the building, and the mysterious man followed suit. My worry heightened, but I reassured myself by remembering the presence of security cameras within the premises. After all, why would he pose a threat inside a well-monitored building when there were no cameras outside? I proceeded to change into my work attire in the changing rooms and noticed that he headed towards a different area leading to the offices. This discovery offered a semblance of relief, supporting my theory that he was indeed an employee. Throughout my shift, I couldn't shake off thoughts about this enigmatic man and the peculiar encounter we shared. One possible explanation I entertained was that he may have mistakenly believed the door was locked and assumed I was waiting to be let in. Out of instinct, he joined me on the floor without uttering a word. Most of the night, I toiled away in my designated area, isolated from others. However, at one point, I heard a cough, and when I turned around, there he stood, rigid as a statue, fixated on me. Startled by his unwavering gaze, I mustered the courage to ask, "Can I help you?" Yet, he remained silent, his empty stare unbroken. 2 minutes elapsed, stretching into an eternity, until he slowly approached me. Every fiber of my being urged me to flee from this mysterious figure, but I found myself transfixed, unable to move. As he drew closer, within mere meters of me, he reached into his pocket. My heart raced, expecting a knife or some menacing object, but to my astonishment, he withdrew an unopened pack of cigarettes, the very same brand I smoked. He handed them to me and departed without uttering a word. The perplexing nature of the situation left me bewildered. The pack of cigarettes couldn't have been mine since I purchased individual packs, never multiples at once. Furthermore, he couldn't have known the brand, as I never revealed it in his presence. From that point on, I never encountered the man again. That evening, I moved to a different area to converse with other colleagues, but they remained skeptical of my account. I even attempted to share the story with my superiors, yet they remained unconvinced. They dismissed my concerns, suggesting that if the stranger managed to enter the building, he must have possessed an access card. However, I knew the truth. It was I who had opened the door, and the man had simply slipped inside before it closed. Despite their skepticism, I continued my work at the company until the end of my contract. To this day, the mystery of that encounter haunts me. Who was that enigmatic man, and what did he want from me? Why did he choose to sit silently beside me that night? What compelled him to follow me into the employee area? And why did he give me an unopened pack of cigarettes that mirrored my brand preference? I've spent countless hours pondering these questions, trying to unravel the truth behind that peculiar episode. Was it a mere coincidence or something more sinister? The lack of answers has left me with a sense of unease, a lingering sense of uncertainty that I can't shake off. Perhaps the man had his reasons, hidden motives that may forever remain a mystery to me, or maybe it was an encounter meant to leave me questioning the strange twists and turns of life. Regardless, that night serves as a reminder that the world is full of inexplicable occurrences and enigmatic individuals. As I've moved on to new experiences and different chapters of my life, I carry with me the memory of that unsettling encounter. It serves as a constant reminder that beneath the surface of our ordinary lives, there are hidden stories and mysteries waiting to be unraveled. And though the answers may elude us, it's in the pursuit of understanding that we find a deeper appreciation for the complexities of the human experience. So, I continue to navigate life's journey, embracing the uncertainties and accepting that some questions may forever remain unanswered. And perhaps, one day, I'll stumble upon the truth behind that mysterious encounter, or maybe I'll learn to embrace the inexplicable and find solace in the mysteries that surround us all. Allow me to share a fascinating story that my Filipino-American grandfather recently recounted to me. It's a tale from his youth that left him visibly shaken and fearful, even after all these years. The events took place in 1970 when my grandpa was just 18 years old. At that time, he was dating a girl named S, who was a year younger than him. They had been together for over a year, and when summer arrived, S invited him to her parents' home in the province. S was currently staying with her aunt while attending school in my grandpa's town. Initially, my grandpa had reservations about visiting S's hometown because it was quite rural and required a 5-hour bus journey. However, his infatuation with S pushed aside his doubts, and he thought, why not? With permission from his parents, he packed his bags, and off they went. Upon arriving in S's hometown, he immediately noticed the curious stares they received from the townsfolk. It was a small community, so the attention stood out. S took him around, showing him the local shops, diners, and sights. However, throughout their explorations, my grandpa couldn't help but feel the weight of the townspeople's gazes. On one occasion, he even overheard a couple whispering the word aswang. Now, for those unfamiliar with Filipino folklore, an aswang is a malevolent creature capable of shape-shifting, feasting on human flesh, and wreaking havoc. During the day, they appear as ordinary individuals, but at night, their true form emerges. Returning to the story, S and my grandpa finally arrived at her house, a grand 3-story wooden structure. There, he met S's parents, who greeted him warmly and engaged in pleasant conversation over dinner. They seemed like any other decent, ordinary family. However, things took an eerie turn on the first night. As my grandpa lay in bed in S's room on the 2nd floor, he was awakened by an unsettling noise. To his surprise, S was nowhere to be seen. Assuming she had gone to the bathroom, he tried to go back to sleep, but the strange sounds persisted. From the floor above him, my grandpa heard what resembled the scratching of a cat's claws against the wooden floor, accompanied by indistinct murmurs. He attempted to ignore it, but the sounds grew louder, multiple clawing noises from above, akin to numerous cats scratching at the floor, interspersed with mumbling. S still hadn't returned, intensifying my grandpa's concern. Suddenly, loud thumps echoed from upstairs, sounding like someone jumping or stomping. These bizarre occurrences thoroughly unnerved my grandpa, who resorted to covering his ears with a pillow. The following day, he mentioned to S how noisy their cats had been, hindering his sleep. Much to his surprise, S looked at him with confusion and said, "We don't have cats." Perplexed, my grandpa responded, "That's strange. I could have sworn I heard cats last night." As the second night arrived, my grandpa was once again roused by the same unsettling sounds. At this point, he was thinking, what on earth is happening? Then he heard forceful grunting from above, resembling an animal in distress. Attempting to shake off his unease, he tried to fall back asleep, but he was abruptly startled by what could only be described as a roar. This peculiar cycle repeated for a few more days until the 4th night arrived. Fed up with the disconcerting events, my grandpa decided he had to confront the situation head-on. He resolved to muster his courage, ascend the stairs to the 3rd floor, and, As the clock struck 1 in the morning, my grandpa steeled himself and tiptoed across the floor, making his way to the stairs leading up to the 3rd floor. As he ascended, he couldn't help but notice something amiss. The light suddenly refused to cooperate, plunging the once illuminated interior into darkness. The only source of light came from the soft glow of the moon. Undeterred by the lack of light, my grandpa pressed on, reaching the room directly above his own on the 2nd floor, the very place from which the haunting sounds emanated. What he witnessed inside sent a chill down his spine. The floor was marked with deep claw-like scratches, the windows flung wide open, and bloodstains stained the wooden surface. There was no sign of S or her parents anywhere. Gripped by fear, my grandpa hurriedly made his way back downstairs to the 2nd floor. Yet, as he moved through the darkened kitchen, a repugnant odor suddenly assailed his nostrils. Curiosity got the better of him, and he inched closer, barely able to make out anything in the darkness. As he reached out, his hand brushed against a large, metallic pot. Summoning his courage, he lifted the lid, and a swarm of flies burst forth, accompanied by a nauseating stench that threatened to overpower him. The darkness prevented him from seeing the contents of the pot, but the mere scent nearly caused him to retch. He hastily slammed the lid shut and scurried back to his room, forcing himself to sleep despite the lingering unease. The following day, during lunch, S's mother served a dish called 괱ᴜᴏʀɪ, a traditional Filipino delicacy made from cooked animal blood mixed with herbs and spices. Sensing an opportunity to uncover the truth, my grandpa feigned illness and declined the meal, insisting he needed to rest and regain his energy. Seizing the chance, he intently observed S's mother's eyes. In Filipino folklore, it is said that when faced with a potential aswang, one's reflection will appear upside down in their eyes. To his horror, my grandpa's reflection did just that. The moment his discovery registered, S's mother's expression transformed from concern to anger. She glared at my grandpa, communicating a clear message. His actions were ill-advised, and there would be consequences. That night, my grandpa wasted no time. He packed his belongings and hurriedly made his way back home, fabricating a story about a family emergency to justify his abrupt departure. Upon his return, he confined himself within the safety of his own home, consumed by fear and trepidation. In the ensuing weeks, he chose to end his relationship with S as he broke the news. She looked at him with sadness in her eyes, understanding the gravity of the situation. While she agreed it was a wise decision, a tinge of regret lingered. My grandpa had truly wanted to marry her. Reflecting on the story, I am left with a multitude of thoughts and emotions. It is a chilling account that showcases the power of folklore and the enduring presence of superstitions in our lives. My grandpa's experience serves as a stark reminder that sometimes the lines between reality and the supernatural can blur in the most unexpected and unsettling ways. However, despite the harrowing nature of this tale, one cannot help but wonder about the truths it may hold. Are there realms beyond our understanding, creatures lurking in the shadows, or perhaps there are rational explanations for the events that transpired? Buried deep within the mysteries of human perception and behavior, ultimately, this story serves as a haunting reminder that even the most ordinary of circumstances can unravel into something profoundly unsettling.